Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another live stream watch along on the Dibbly-Dobbly podcast. It's the second test between Australia and South Africa from the MCG, and it's going to be a very difficult task for South Africa. They trail by 386 runs, well behind in this game. They've been out in the field for almost 2 days, and Australia have definitely asserted their dominance in this test match. And for South Africa, they would need to try and bat out for a draw for 2 days. It's going to be a difficult challenge. How will they go about it? Australia will be up and about, and they'll be looking to take early wickets in this final session of play. Bit of cloud, a bit of rain around in Melbourne today. We had a bit of a delay at the start of the day's play, but it looks like the rain's holding for the time being, so we should be able to get a full session in to end day number 3 of this test match, which has provided some entertaining cricket, some good performances with both bat and ball, and hopefully we'll see many more brilliant performances with both bat and ball. So, South Africa, difficult challenge for Dean Elgar and Irvi, the openers. They will need to go out there and try and put on a partnership to get South Africa off and running in this final session. Thanks for joining us, everyone. And South Africa, 386 runs behind. And they will need a miracle to try and draw this test match. Definitely Australia in the box seat. Australia do have some concerns. Mitchell Starc with a finger injury. Cameron Green, we know, won't bowl because he's got a bit of a fracture in his finger. And Australia will be most likely 2 bowlers down. So it'll be interesting to see how Pat Cummins juggles the bowlers around himself and Scott Boland and Nathan Lyon. So it'll be interesting to see how he'll go there. Hello, John. You say good afternoon. I hope you had a nice Christmas and a full belly of prawns. Thank you, John. I hope you had a good Christmas as well. It was certainly a good Christmas. Good to have a bit of a break, recharge the batteries, as most people would. But everyone who's listening, I hope you had a very good Christmas and a very happy festive season. But Australia definitely will be certainly happy about where they stand in the match at the moment. They're well in front. Alex Carey, superb century from him today. The second wicketkeeper to score a test century at the MCG. The only one to do it before him was Rod Marsh back in 1977. That was the centenary test. And Alex Carey joins the list, which was a superb knock from him. Cameron Green batted well, broken finger, got a half century. I thought he showed a lot of grit and determination. And to bat through the pain wasn't easy for him. But he bowled well in the first innings, got a fifer, and he's got a 50 in this test. So he won't be playing in Sydney, Cameron Green, as we know, but he'll be disappointed about that. But injuries happen. But he'll be delighted that he contributed in some shape or form in this test match with both bat and ball. But he won't be contributing to the second innings bowling effort. But Pat Cummins leading the side out. The South African openers, difficult task for them, Irvi and Elgar. Can they get South Africa off to a good start? It's probably unlikely that South Africa will draw this test match. It's not easy batting out 2 days to save the match. Australia definitely in the box seat. Mitchell Starc. Be interesting to see if he will have a bowl. He's been warming up in the nets, trying to bowl on that injured hand of his. But let's hope he can get a few wickets and contribute to the bowling effort for Australia. A bit cloudy at the MCG, and John refers to the Melbourne weather. Well, you say Melbourne, eh? 4 seasons in 1 day, as Bill Laurie would say. It's all happening. Indeed, it's all happening in Melbourne. Very hot yesterday and cold and miserable the next day. But some relief for the players as sure as Irvi and Elgar make their way out to the middle. They've got a big challenge on their hands, the South African openers. To be honest, it wasn't a 189 all-out surface. We saw Australia pile on nearly 600 runs, so the surface is still pretty good for batting. But scoreboard pressure will be on the minds of the South African batters. And they have not passed 200 in the last 6 or 7 innings in Test cricket, South Africa. So it's definitely going to be a very difficult challenge for them. It's going to be Mitchell Starc who's going to bowl. Be interesting to see how Mitchell Starc goes with that injured hand with the finger. But he's going to have a crack, which is good. He's going to have a bowl. He was bowling in the nets, trying to see if he could get through his action and grip the ball. If it was on the other hand, his right hand, it would have been fine, but it's on his left. The middle finger is the one that he damaged when he took that catch on day one. Tried to get that catch on the boundary. Unfortunately, didn't quite get the catch, but unfortunately the ball hit the edge of the finger and he was off the field getting some treatment for that. But he's going to be bowling the first over. And it's important for Australia to get early wickets in this last session, which will be the crucial thing for them. If they can do that, then they're in with a good chance of wrapping up the series today. Marcus Harris on the field. He's on the field for Cameron Green. He's off the field due to that finger injury. He got a bit of a blow to Nokia in the first innings, and it turned out that Cameron Green had a fracture, which is never good. He had a pretty good first innings, as I mentioned, with that fifer, and he did well to get a 50 as well. He batted through the pain. Good partnership with Alex Carey, and good to see him contribute, even though he won't be contributing with the ball here. So Mitchell Starc to the left-hander in Irvie to get us underway in the second innings. South Africa, big challenge on their hands. Can they do it? Their batters have got to stand up. Australia in the box seat, and they need 10 wickets to wrap up this test match and wrap up the series with one to play in Sydney next week. Here we go. Mitchell Starc to Irvie. He bowls this one short of a length, and Irvie leaves it outside the off stump, straight through to the keeper for no run. So Mitchell Starc got through that first ball okay. Be interesting to see how much the injury will impede him in terms of swinging the ball and trying to get through his action. That first delivery was okay. Not bad. He'll be in some pain. But good to see Mitchell Starc contributing in some way, knowing that Australia, they are a bowler down with Cameron Green, and they would like Mitchell Starc to bowl if he can. So definitely it's going to be a bit of a trial and error situation in this first over. See how he goes. Starc in again for his second ball to Irvie. This one a bit fuller. Yet again, Irvie leaves it outside the off stump, straight through to the keeper for no run. And a good start from Starc. A couple of dot balls, trying to get into the rhythm of things and the swing of things. He looks okay, but he will be in a little bit of pain. Just a little bit of pain with that finger. He hasn't broken the finger, which is good. No fracture, unlike Cameron Green. It's just a bit of a problem with the ligaments. So as we see that middle finger from Mitchell Starc, it's a bit bruised and battered when the ball hit it. When he was trying to attempt that catch on day one. Starc in again to Irvie. Playing a miss. Pass Irvie's outside edge. And straight through to the keeper for no run. Good start from Starc. Playing a miss. Try and make the batters play early on with this new ball. South African batters in a bit of a challenge and a battle. Mitchell Starc just trying to get his radar right here. Trying to get a bit of a feel of how the finger is and can he cope with the pain and how long will he tolerate the pain for. But it's a good sign that he's actually bowling this first over. So that's promising for Australia because they need all the bowlers they can get. Starc in again to Irvie. This one down the leg side. Irvie tried to work it down to fine leg. In the end, he misses it. Straight through to Carey. But no run. 2 balls left of the first over of the second innings for South Africa. It's been a pretty good start from Starc. 4 dot balls to begin the first over. Good crowd in for day 3 of this test match here at the MCG. It's been a pretty straightforward test match for Australia. South Africa definitely behind in this game. Toiled hard 2 days in the field. Yesterday was hot. Nearly touching 40 degrees. A Starc comes in again for the 5th ball of the over. He bowls to Irvie. This one again down the leg side. Irvie trying to work it down to fine leg again. Just like the previous delivery. Playing the miss. Straight through to Carey, the keeper. Another dot ball for South Africa. Scott Boland. Definitely popular with the MCG crowd. after what he did a year ago on the day, I believe, where he got 6 for 7 at the MCG a year ago against England in the Ashes, and what a spell that was. You'll be hoping they can contribute today. So Starc, last ball of the over to Irvie. He bowls, and Irvie lets this delivery go past. He's off stump and straight through to the keeper for another dot ball to win the over. It's a good over from Australia, good over from Starc, an okay over from him. It's a maiden. It's none for none after one. Good start from Australia, maiden over. Irvie just been watchful. It's got a little bit gloomy at the MCG, so the lights have taken over. Mitchell Starc, bit of a comparison on his grip from the first innings to the second innings. Of course, with that finger injury, he's going to be a bit impeded. And he's just putting the tape back on that finger. Now, you can't bowl with tape, so you've got to take any strapping on your finger off. ICC playing conditions don't allow for strapping on your finger because that gives an advantage to the bowler. As Pat Cummins comes on for the second over, no surprise. So Cummins to Dean Elgar for the first time. He bowls this one. Elgar, let's go. And straight through to the keeper for no run. John says, I've had a broken finger, chipped the bone where the tendon attaches. Didn't hurt much, just lost a function until it was repaired. I'm not an elite fast bowler, though. Well, yes, with Mitchell Starc, he hasn't broken it. I do believe it's some ligament damage that he's sustained, which is a good thing, I suppose. He doesn't need to be operated on. Disappointing to hear that Cameron Green suffered a little fracture in his finger, but let's hope he doesn't need surgery. I don't think he needs surgery. Cummins again to Elgar. This one, Elgar lets go to the passes off stump, straight through to the keeper for no run. Alex Carey will be on a high. Came off scoring a wonderful century. Well played, Alex Carey. Really deserved that century. He really batted well today. And he'll be hoping to take a few catches behind the stumps as well to really cap off this test match for him. Definitely a dream come true for him to score a Boxing Day century in a Boxing Day test. As Cummins bowls to Elgar. Elgar down the leg side. There's an appeal for caught behind. Cummins and the Australians like it. I think Dean Elgar got a bit of battle glove on it. The umpires are coming together. Richard Kettleborough's just saying, settle down, fellas. I'm going to have a word with my colleague, Paul Rifle at Square Leg, to see if it carried or not. But the Australians look cock-a-hoop. Dean Elgar, he was out caught down the leg side in the first innings of the first test. Now, the soft signal is out. Richard Kettleborough saying it's out. And this will be a brilliant start for the Australians. Dean Elgar, he's had a terrible tour thus far as the skipper. Let's see if this carried to Carey. I think it did. It looked pretty good. Carey's confident. Cummins has struck at his first over potentially. Here we go. Was there a bit of glove on this? Oh, yes. The ball just brushing the glove of Dean Elgar, trying to work it down to fine leg. And Alex Carey, I think he's taken the catch cleanly. The soft signal was out, remember, by Richard Kettleborough. Definitely off the glove. There was ball and glove contact there. Hot spot showing potentially a spot or a graze. RTS will give us an indication on that if there was a spike. The Australians look confident. Dean Elgar looks a bit nervous. Oh, yes, there is a bit of a spike on the glove. Whether or not it carried or not, that's the big question. Alex Carey did well to get to that. This will be a brilliant start for the Australians, and it'll be an absolute horror start for South Africa. Let's have a look at the catch from Carey. Did it carry? Ball's coming into his gloves there. He's got it. I think he's got it. I think the fingers are underneath that. The Australians like it on the replay on the big screen at the MCG. Dean Elgar looks unmoved, but I think he knows he's a goner. But I think Alex Carey got his fingers underneath the ball there. I think this will be out. And Dean Elgar will have to go for a duck. He is out. Australia strike early. South Africa lose their first wicket. It's the captain, Dean Elgar. He's gone for a duck again in this series. That's how he got out in Brisbane, if people remember the dismissal in the first innings in Brisbane. He was trying to work it down the leg side there, and he got a bit of a glove down the leg side in that first innings of the first test. And the second innings of the second test, he's got out the same way. Very good catch from Carey. As I said, he will be on a high scoring that century. Pat Cummins has struck for Australia. First wicket down for the Proteus. Dean Elgar's got to make the long walk back to the pavilion here at the MCG. He's gone for a 3-ball duck. And South Africa in trouble. They're 1 for none. And that will bring Debruyne to the crease. He came in for Rassie van der Dussen for this test match. He'll be the next batter in at number 3. Pat Cummins, he has a knack of getting a break for early, and that's good for Australia. If they can pick up a few wickets tonight, it will make their bowling effort a lot easier, knowing that Starc and Green have injuries and they can't really contribute as much. Dean Elgar will be disappointed, the South African skipper. He'll be hoping for a lot more runs in this series. He's the only South African batter that's got a very good record at test level. Pat Cummins delighted, and he should be. He's had a pretty good game as skipper again. South Africa on the ropes, you would think. If they lose another wicket here, it's probably panic stations. It already is. They trail by over 380 runs on the first innings. To try and make Australia bat again, it's going to be unlikely they will do that. Debruyne comes to the middle. Not much experience at test level. This is only his 13th match. He's in the pressure cooker now. As Pat Cummins has got his tail up, he'll be hoping for another wicket. That's a common theme throughout the series. South Africa's batting. It's really let them down big time. And they'll be hoping that they can find something in the second innings, but it looks unlikely now. Shannon says Aussies will be too good. Well, you would think Australia should be able to get the 9 more wickets required and wrap up the series. You would think they should do that, despite the problems with some injuries to Starc and Green. Cummins to the new batter in Debruyne. He bowls, and this one plain a miss. Past the outside edge of Debruyne's bat. Straight through to the keeper for a dot ball. Pat Cummins is on. Good start from the Australian skipper. He's had a pretty good test match. Went to plan. Everyone questioned his decision to bowl first on day 1, but it paid off. Australia were able to bowl them out cheaply. 189. John says, we like knocking over openers down the leg side, just gravy. Well, South African openers have gone cheaply in this series. Cummins into Debruyne. Shouldered arms there, Debruyne. It's hit him on the pad. An appeal from Cummins for LBW. Richard Kettleborough says not out. Pat Cummins thinking about a potential review, but he says no, let's not risk it. Pretty sure that was going down the leg side, maybe a bit high as well. And Pat Cummins, this delivery from him, just jagging back, just swinging back into the right-hander in Debruyne. Caught him on the pad and a bit high there and probably going down the leg side as well. So Pat Cummins definitely in the game. He's making this new ball talk. Yeah, just going over the top of leg stump. And a good decision not to review that. Cummins, last ball of his over to Debruyne. He bowls this one, a fuller delivery from Cummins, but Debruyne decides to leave it outside his off stump, straight through to the keeper for a dot ball. It's the end of the second over. South Africa, a 1 for none after 2. Wicket made in there for Pat Cummins. Good start from the Australian team. Shannon says, and Warner, don't forget. Yes, David Warner was outstanding. The superb knock from David Warner, 200 he made. Definitely proving the doubters all wrong, that he's still capable of scoring runs at this level. But it was such a brilliant knock from David Warner. Really set up this match for Australia. His partnership with Smith was key. And no doubt, very proud innings from him. And his 100th test joins a list of many cricketers who have done that to score 100 in their 100th test. Starc into Irvi. This one full, and Irvi squirts this out through the covers for a single. And South Africa score their first run of the second innings. Irvi off the mark. That will bring Debruyne on strike to Starc. So Mitchell Starc, he's bowling okay. Now, we talked about Dean Elgar caught down the leg side. He got out to Mitchell Starc that way at the Gabba in the first test, and he got out to Pat Cummins the same way in the second innings. So Australia definitely exposing that, definitely looking to bowl that line outside leg stump and hoping Dean Elgar will glove it. And he has done on 2 previous occasions. And certainly Australia will be very happy with that first wicket as Starc again bowls to Debruyne this time. He's up, he bowls. And this one outside off stump. And Debruyne leaves it straight through the keeper for a dot ball. John says maybe the naysayers will leave Davey alone for a while. Well, he's definitely proved them wrong. He's definitely stood up, and he's a fighter, as we know, David Warner, but it was a very good innings, to do that in extreme heat. I think many people, regardless whether you like Warner or not, you have to admire that it was a pretty terrific knock. To do that as an opener, it's a pretty good innings from him. Starc into Debruyne, outside edge, it squirts past the slip cordon down to the third man boundary. Good fielding there from Marnus. They'll cut it off for 3, and Debruyne is off the mark with a 3. And he gets his account away in the second innings. Mitchell Starc looks okay from what I've seen from him in these couple of overs that he's bowled thus far. Looks okay. He will be in pain somehow with that finger. But I think he's had a couple of painkillers and maybe an injection just to get through the pain and hopefully take a few wickets and contribute to Australia's potential victory here. Starc in again to Irvi. Irvi defends on the front foot to point. And there is no run. Mitchell Starc just wincing after that ball. Obviously just wrapping the towel around the finger. Obviously just making sure that the finger's okay. As we can see, it is bruised and battered. So he will be sore, but he's doing his job here, and he's doing okay. He's in pain after that last ball. But as we saw with Cameron Green, you just got to fight through the pain. And that's what he's doing, Starkey. He's doing an okay job thus far. Stark in again to Irvi. Irvi leaves this one outside the off stump for no run. John says his second 100 was tremendous in that innings, given the conditions and his physical distress. Yes, it was. It was a pretty good knock from David Warner. The heat. He was suffering a bit, cramping all over. After he got the 200, he had to retire hurt. But, you like to see those knocks. You like to see batters earn their runs. It was very hot. And for him to do that was a pretty good knock from David Warner. It looked like the David Warner of old. Starc in again to Irvi. This one short, outside off stump. Irvi tried to uppercut this down to third man. It's a play and a miss. And it's a dot ball to end the over. End of the over. It's a pretty good over from Australia. And South Africa toiling hard. It's going to be a difficult challenge for them to try and get something out of this test match. It's not going to be easy for them. And at the end of the third over, South Africa 1 for 4. They trail by 382 runs. Long, long way behind in this match. As Pat Cummins bowls his first ball to Debruyne, and it's a dot ball. It's a big challenge for South Africa. Their batting hasn't been up to the mark in this series. John says Dean Jones worthy that innings. True grit. Yes, a lot of people were comparing Dean Jones with David Warner's innings, of course. Similar conditions, very hot, excruciating conditions. Both of them making 200, but fantastic effort from Warner. It's Cummins bowls to Debruyne, who defends this ball to mid-on for no run. But David Warner definitely proving his critics and doubters wrong. He's still got it. And to do that in your 100th test is a proud moment as well. He's the second Australian to score a century or a double century in their 100th test for Australia. Ricky Ponting was the first. He did it against South Africa at the SCG back in 2005-06. He got 200s in both innings as Cummins bowls to Debruyne, the first short ball of the innings. Debruyne ducks underneath it. Straight through to the keeper for a dot. Back Cummins. The first wicket, and that was Dean Elgar for a duck. Caught behind by Carey down the leg side, strangled down the leg side, and Dean Elgar, the captain of South Africa, he's said a few words before this series, but he hasn't really delivered on any of the messaging he's been projecting before the series started and before this test match. It hasn't really come true for South Africa. Cummins to Debruyne. Debruyne leaves this one outside the off stump for another dot ball. And for South Africa, their bowling is definitely their strength. Their batting has been tested, no doubt about that, and it will be tested in this second innings and also in Sydney for the last test. But South Africa, they'll be disappointed with how they've gone about things in this innings. Oh, certainly in this test match, but also in the first test as well. It hasn't been great for them. Cummins in to Debruyne. Outside edge, dropped by Warner at first slip. It carried to David Warner, and David Warner has just signalled that it just swung a bit. And David Warner was caught by surprise on that delivery, but a good delivery from Pat Cummins. He squared up Debruyne, got the outside edge. David Warner couldn't finish off the job. Yeah, outside edge, going straight to Warner at first slip, ran about shin height, down to his right, and David Warner just couldn't hang on to the catch. He put it down. So a drop catch there from David Warner. He had it, and then it just came out at the last minute. Cummins to Debruyne. Bowls this one. Debruyne defends. Trickles out to the leg side for a dot ball. Now, David Warner usually takes those catches in the slips. Unfortunately, that one he dropped down to his right to end the over. Just having a look at the replay again. Outside edge, shin height, down to his right. He had it, and then it just boggled out at the last minute. That would have been 2 wickets for Cummins. Oh, yeah. Just couldn't hang on, David Warner. Good effort, though. Don't mean to drop a catch. It just happens. But for Australia, definitely creating opportunities with this new ball and some nervous times for South Africa as they try and negotiate this innings. 1 for 4 after 4. Starc into Irving, who defends this. He manages to get it past Nathan Lyon at point, and he'll pick up a couple. In the end, he'll pick up 3. Good running there from Irving. He moves on to 4. But South Africa, tentative and nervous at the start of their innings. Definitely under the pump when you're 380 odd runs behind, trying to bat out for a draw for 2 days. It's not going to be easy, especially up against the Australian bowlers. Scott Boland, when will he have a bowl? Hopefully soon. John says, I'll say Warner is a little mentally fatigued. Normally he pouched that 1. Yeah, obviously Warner a little bit tired there. And Starc into Debruyne. This one, full delivery on the pads. An appeal for LBW. Turned down by Paul Rifle. Maybe going down the leg side. It was a good delivery from Starc. It was full, swinging into the pads of Debruyne. And Mitchell Starc, we know he's got that finger injury, but he swung that ball pretty well. Probably going down the leg side as well. Let's have a look. Yeah, just going down the leg side there. A bit too much on that delivery from Starc, but a good good sign there from Mitchell Starc that he's able to swing the ball in some sort of capacity with his finger being injured. Good delivery. In the end, it was going down the leg side to get a leg by. Fazan Khan, thanks for joining us. You say, does anyone really think South Africa can salvage a draw here? Well, they will need to bat out of their, try and bat better, South Africa, if they are to do that. Starc into Irvie, who works as to mid-on for a single. They will need to bat better than they have done in this series thus far. It's never easy batting for 2 days to try and salvage a draw. So, yeah, that one going down the leg side from Starc, just missing leg stump. So good decision not to review that in the end. But good signs from Starc. But, yeah, Australia definitely firm favourites to win this test match by an innings and wrap up the series 2-0, which will be a very good result for them. South Africa have been underwhelming, especially in this test match. You can't be getting bowled out for under 200. You're not going to win too many test matches. Starc in to Debruyne, who defends on the front foot for a dot ball. And Mitchell Starc trying to get his rhythm and pace up, and he's in some pain, of course, with that finger. He won't be playing the next test in Sydney. Cameron Green won't be playing either. So a bit of a question for anyone in the chat. Who do you think Australia should rely on for the next test in Sydney? Who do you think they should call up? Potential replacements for Starc and Green? Well, definitely with Mitchell Starc, you probably think Josh Hazlewood would come back. Maybe not. Maybe they'll call Lance Morris like-for-like replacement for Starc. As Starc bowls to Debruyne, this one outside his off stunt. He leaves it. Straight through to the keeper for no run. Mazan Khan says, double century. He's allowed at least one drop. Well, he is. He batted for a long time, David Warner. He batted for many hours, cramping up everywhere. So it can't be too hard on David Warner, obviously. You don't mean to drop a catch. It just happens. And, he'll be disappointed about that drop catch. But nonetheless, he'll be ready for the other opportunity that presents itself to him in the slips. And he'll be ready for that next opportunity that comes. But Australia creating some chances here. Starc, last ball the over to Debruyne. This one full outside off stump. Debruyne leaves it to the keeper for no run. It's the end of the over. It's 1 for 9 after 5. South Africa, 1 for 9 after 5. They trail by 377. Long way away in this game. Australia definitely on top. South Africa, a lot of work to do to try and get out of this test with a draw going into Sydney, which is probably most unlikely. But weirder things have happened in the game of cricket. You never know. But definitely Australia in the box seat for this second test match to wrap up the series. And by far, they've been the dominant team in the series. South Africa, their batting has been the common problem in the series. They haven't really batted well enough to be competitive. The bowling has looked threatening at times, but in this test match, it looked a bit off. Understandable. You've been out in the field for 2 days in the excruciating heat. The bowlers looked a little bit weary and tired, and Australia grinded them into dust as Cummins bowls to Irvie. And Irvie leaves this outside off stump for no run. Pat Cummins, he's probing, challenging these South African batters and Irvie and Debruyne. That's Pat Cummins' greatest strength. He's always at you as a bowler. And as a batter, you've got to be really on. That one was a tight lead from Irvie. But he trusts that ball was not going to hit the off stump, and he could leave it well outside off stump there. Cummins to Irvie. This one full, and Irvie defends to mid-off for no run. John says, problem is we need a number 6 batsman. I'm not bothered if they can bowl or not, and I'm not sure who best fits that criteria. It'll be interesting. Who they select for the next test in Sydney. Potential replacement for Cameron Green. I think Aaron Hardy. He's a young guy from the West. Cameron Green's teammate. I think he's most likely to probably potentially make his test debut. As Cummins bowls to Irvie. This one outside off stump. Irvie leaves it. In the end, dot ball. So it'd be interesting to see who they call up. You would think with Mitchell Starc, you would think Josh Hazlewood should come back in. A lot of people are saying that's a straightforward selection, but some people are saying maybe they picked Lance Morris. He's a left armer, can bowl quick, just like Mitchell Starc, as a potential like-for-like replacement. Or do Australia choose 5 bowlers, play 2 spinners in Sydney? All these things I have to think about. Cummins to Irvie again, this one outside off stump. Left alone by Irvie for no run. So all of these things you have to factor in for the Australian selectors. Do they want to play 2 spinners in Sydney? We always speak about that every time we go to Sydney. I don't think Australia should, because they've got Labuschagne and Head who can bowl spin. And do they want an extra batter? Do they want an all-rounder at 6? Are they going to go in with 5 bowlers and back their top 6 for Australia? So it's definitely questions for the selectors, but it's a good headache to have. Cummins to Irvie. Wraps him on the body, this one. Irvie tried to work it around the corner down behind square on the leg side. This one hit him right on the body. Dot ball. Good start from Cummins. 5 dot balls in this over. Building pressure. He's trying to work it around the corner. Irvie just hit him on the thigh. Nasty blow there, but he's okay. Fazan, you say, I was reading somewhere that South Africa haven't crossed 200 innings total in the last 4+ tests, so Australia should win this easily and then rest as many players as they can for the next test. Cummins in to Irvie, last ball of the over. And this one hits Irvie again on the pad. See on the over, it's 1 for 9 after 6. A maiden over from Pat Cummins. Yes, you would think that South Africa unlikely to probably get past 200 in this innings. Obviously got bowled out for 189 in the first innings. They also got bowled out for 152 and 99 in the first test. So indication of where their batting is at, and that is a concern for them. I do find it a bit surprising that they're actually number 2 in the WTC rankings before this test match. And it's hard to believe why they're number 2 in the world, because their batting has struggled, but their bowling's been good. But they've won those test matches when needed. Starc into Debruyne. This one traps him on the pads. Starc appeals for LBW again. They'll come through for a leg bye potentially. I think this one was going down leg side again, probably pitched outside leg. Pat Cummins is having a chat to Starkey and the other guys. The keeper, Carey, we headed a pitch. What do you think? Was it going down leg? And I think everyone agreed that it was going down the leg side, so don't bother. In the end, they decide not to review that, which is a good decision, I think, and it's probably going down the leg side. But Mitchell Starc getting a bit of swing. Ooh, umpire's call, just clipping the leg stump. But the umpire gave it not out, so it would have stayed not out if reviewed by Australia. Paul Rifle say not out, so a marginal decision there. Umpire's call, quite controversial. A lot of people like it, a lot of people don't. But good start here from Mitchell Starc. He's looking promising with that finger injury. He's getting the ball to swing, so good signs for Australia for the remainder of this test that Mitchell Starc can bowl. Bowls to Irvie. This one short. Irvie pushes this through the covers for a quick single. And he gets to the other end. John says, is Hardy the bloke Kerry O'Keefe is backing? Yes, John. Aaron Hardy. He's a youngster. He's around about 23 years old. 22, 23. Similar age to Cameron Green. He's from the West. He's an all-rounder as well, and he's pretty good. I've seen a little bit of him. He could be a potential outsider to replace Green for the next test in Sydney. It's not a bad thing for Australia to try some debutants in Sydney, because most likely they'll probably win here. And best way to do that is when you've won the series and wrapped it up. Starc to Debruyne. This one full and wide outside off stump. Debruyne try to carve it through the covers. Play and a miss. Another dot ball. And Mitchell Starc, that angle across, left arm over the wicket to the right-hander, angling the ball across the right-hander, trying to entice the drive through the covers, get the outside edge to the slips in the gully, and the keeper nearly got the outside edge there. Debruyne saw it, bit of width. He said, right, I'm going to pounce on it. In the end, playing a miss. Mitchell Starc liking what he's seeing. South Africa, 1 for 11, 3 balls left of the 7th over. Starc gets ready to bowl to Debruyne again. He bowls this one full outside off stump. Debruyne gets an outside edge past backward point. It's racing away to the backward point boundary. Won't quite get there. Marnus will wrap it up. And they'll come back for 3. And Debruyne moves on to 6. Cyril Wardner says, thanks for joining us. What are your predictions for the Australia-India Test series coming up? Can Australia win the series or manage to win at least one match? It's definitely a big series. It's definitely going to be a challenge for Australia. Look, anyone who's gone to India knows it's a tough place to tour. Australia haven't won in India since 2004 in a Test series. I do believe Australia can at least win a Test match, maybe 2 if they can really achieve that. Starc bowls to Irvi, passes outside edge, and there's an appeal for caught behind, but in the end, Irvi, no damage done. He still survives. Good bowling from Starc. Getting the ball to swing and causing some problems. That one just missing the outside edge of Irvi's bat. He was squared up. Good take from Carey behind the stumps. I think Australia could do well in India. It's going to be an interesting series. I think it's going to be a tight series. I think it's going to be both teams will give it their all, but definitely a challenge for Australia. It's not going to be easy, but can't really put a number on it. But Starc bowls to Irvi. This one inside edge down to fine leg for a single. It's the end of the over. It's 1 for 15 after 7. South Africa trail by 371 runs. 1 for 15 after 7. Good start from Australia. South Africa looking a bit tentative, a bit nervous, as you would expect when you're in this type of situation. Now, the players are coming off the field. I believe there's some rain around. The umpires have instructed the covers to come on. So we will have a little bit of a disruption in this last session. It was forecast that rain was going to come down in this last session, potentially. Let's hope it's not a big delay. But Australia have started well. Wicket of Elgar for a duck, caught down the leg side. He was the only wicket to go. Irvi and Debruyne are out in the middle. Irvi's on 7 off 21. Debruyne 6 off 18. Pat Cummins got the first wicket. And that was Dean Elgar, the South African skipper. So skipper of the Australian team, Pat Cummins, getting rid of the opposition skipper in Dean Elgar. And the covers are coming on. It's a bit gloomy, bit overcast in Melbourne today. And for Australia, they'll be delighted with how they've started. Got the early wicket. As we can see there, bit of blood on Mitchell Starc's trousers. That's from his finger, obviously. So, as everyone knows, you can't really have any strapping on your finger when you bowl. So Mitchell Starc has to take that off every time he bowls. So a bit of blood spatter on his cream trousers there. But he's bowling okay, Mitchell Starc. And that's good signs for Australia, knowing that Cameron Green can't bowl. Lyon and Cummins and Boland will have to do most of the work. But it's good that Mitchell Starc is having a crack. He's bowling pretty well, actually. So that injury is impeding him slightly. But good signs for Australia that they've got Starc, if required, as a backup. So the rain has come. Bit of a rain delay here at the MCG. South Africa in a bit of trouble. But when the rain is falling, we can have a bit of a chat. Pass the time. Nothing much happening at the moment. The players are off for rain. If you just joined us, rain delay. Frustrations. Rain. It was hot yesterday in Melbourne, and now all of a sudden it's cloudy, overcast, and miserable. how quickly the weather can change. But we can have a chat, ask questions. You got any questions? Deepak says India will win 3-1. John says, Jihan and I will just say Aussie whitewash. Yeah, I think you'll say that, John. Yes, most likely Australia should win this series 3-0. Siradna says, do you think Sandpaper might be in contention to play the India series alongside Lyon and Elgar? Well, he has already played a Sheffield Shield match for New South Wales, and the selectors have thought about that. Be interesting. You've got Mitchell Swepson, you've got Ashton Elgar as the spinners. You've also got Labuschagne and Head as spinners as well. There's been talk about Todd Murphy, the youngster from Victoria, who bowls similar to Nathan Lyon. So there's a lot of options in the spin department for Australia. Definitely Nathan Lyon will be definitely the main spinner, of course, obviously, as he has been throughout his career. Be interesting to see who partners him, but Adam Zampa is definitely in the conversation. Will he go to India? I'm not sure. I think they'll go with Elgar and probably Swepson, maybe Todd Murphy if they want to give him some experience in the squad. John says, I meant in India. Shannon says, we will win 3-0. The direct hit, you say, is there a link? Well, Aran, if you want to join me, you can as a guest. I'll send that to your email if you want to join me. So I'll just send that now to you, Aran, if you want to join us for a chat. We've got nothing much to talk about here as we have a bit of rain delay. It would be good to talk to someone about this test match and about cricket around the world as we wait for the covers to come off. So covers are on. I don't think this could be a long delay. I hope it's not, because we've seen some good cricket from the Australians. But keep your questions going through. We'll answer them as we get through this rain delay. So if you just joined us, a reminder of what has happened. Australia declared their innings in the second session. They were, I'll just look it up here on my phone. Australia declared their innings, 8 for 575 declared. And David Warner, definitely the star of the Australian innings, 200 he made. Good contributions from Alex Carey, brought up his maiden test century, 111. Cameron Green batted well, 51 not out with a broken finger. Good to see him gritting it out and grinding his teeth and getting through the pain. And good innings from Steve Smith of 85. The South African bowlers toured hard, nothing much to speak of there. And South Africa at the moment, 1 for 15 in reply. They trail by 371 runs, which is a long way away for them to come back or to try and draw this match. Keep your questions going, everyone. I'm joined by Aran from the Direct Hit, and he's going to join us for a bit. And I'm going to have a bit of a chat, everyone. So, Aran, how are you going?
Good. How are you, Jack?
I'm very well. Yourself?
Good. The exams just got over. The semester is over. So back to the cricket around the world, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah, that's good to hear. What are your thoughts on this match, Aran? How have you seen this series thus far? Australia, the dominant side.
Yeah, but I'm really disappointed in South Africa as a batting unit. I mean, they have similar conditions to Australia. Maybe not that much bounce, but bounce to the extent that they play in South Africa, there is some bounce and movement. And I thought they should have coped better with the conditions. But sadly, the scenario is, it's the reverse of that. They have collapsed badly in both the tests, and now they find themselves in this situation. So yeah, they have themselves to blame on. So that's pretty much it. Hmm.
Yes. The covers are still on, so as we wait, send your questions through. John, thanks for your question. You say, we expected the South African batting to be their weak point, but their bowling has let them down too, not hitting the right length consistently. Thoughts? I think that's right. They just haven't looked on when they've started to spell, Rabada especially.
Yeah.
You've got to start an over well. and he just bowls a poor delivery as a loosener.
Uh-huh.
And you don't build pressure. And in this Test match, they just haven't built pressure. They haven't bowled enough maidens,
I think
and
expect.
it was a difficult day for them with the ball. But I
Yeah,
think their bowling has been threatening at times. Nokia is by far the
yeah,
best bowler of this Test
yeah,
match. 3 wickets
exactly.
bowling rapid pace.
Mhm.
Rabada a bit underwhelming. Ningidi not quite himself. Janssen showed some good signs yesterday with Steve Smith in that battle. Maharaj has been disappointing as the spinner. You got to expect more from your spinner.
Yeah,
Nathan Lyon does that role superbly for Australia, but Maharaj over 100 runs in 40 odd overs is not what you want from your spinner. You want a few
no,
wickets there,
no, no, no.
but yeah, their bowling hasn't really hit their straps all that well in this series. Your thoughts on that, Iran, about the South
Just
African
except,
bowlers?
except for that 4 wicket session where you had to chase like 80 odd. Except for that, South Africa have been like hot and cold. Would be the word that I want to use for their bowling throughout the series. And yeah, when a batsman piles on 200, then there is only a bit you can do because obviously the heat is a factor in Melbourne on I think yesterday. The temperatures were high. Also, the bowlers getting drained out, so all that came into play. And Nokia didn't get drained out. He had, I think, the spider cam took it out on him, the way it hit him.
Yeah, that
But
was not good to see.
that wasn't good to see.
But
But he has some kind of fuel in him. He's a car that just keeps going, I guess. Doesn't slow down, and that's his specialty. Warner just commented today that it's one of the fastest spells that he's faced ever in Test cricket. So that's something coming from Davy Warner, who's played 100 tests now. So
mm,
yeah, except for Nokia, as you said. Yeah, and this also dents their WTC chances now. If they lose 3-0, we'll be very happy. We are dancing here in India, like yeah, that's what we wanted. So we want to get through to the final, and they need to slam West Indies 2-0. That's their only chance, I guess, at home to get through.
yeah,
Otherwise, India just needs to beat Australia by any margin if they lose 3-0 here, and then India and
yeah.
Australia are through. So, yeah, that's also a factor.
Indeed, it is. WTC, of course. India moving to second place, winning 2-0 against Bangladesh, and South Africa slipping from second to third after losing the first test at the Gabba, obviously on a very difficult surface, it must be said, on a green top, which
Yeah.
lasted 2 days,
Yep.
which was pretty interesting. What were your thoughts on that test, Aaron?
When we
We don't.
prepare a rank turner versus South Africa, then people question it. When Pakistan prepares a road, then they question it, and when green top is prepared, they question it. I feel there should be a even contest between bat and ball, not slated towards one side. Like for example, in Pakistan, it was slated towards the batting side. You can see you can't score 700 runs on a wicket that is supporting both the sides, right? You can't really play a shots. Similarly, on a rank turner, if you are getting all out, if for me, if 20 wickets are falling on 2 days, that's a demerit point straight away. You can't really say that batsmen had to grind it out. Then they had some time where the bowlers were tired. You can see the favorism in one aspect of cricket, like it's favoring a batsman or it's favoring a bowler. It's pretty clear. So as soon as that happens, I think ICC should intervene, which they did, and I see no problem in it. Whichever country it is, whichever team it is, whichever board it is, it should be criticized if it's wrong. If the curator has done some wrongdoing. So yeah, it should be
Yeah.
equal to all.
Do you think that it's good that test matches are exciting and lasting 2 days, or do you prefer a test match to get drawn out over 5 days and build up
I
that
would I
suspense?
would
Or
prefer I would prefer good hard test cricket and played at least 4 days, not in 2 days. First of all, from a financial point of view, the crowd needs to get refunded because they don't buy tickets. They don't buy
yeah,
tickets expecting a 2-day test.
mm,
They buy tickets for a 5-day test. That's what they do. So even as fans, yeah, we don't buy tickets for a 2-day test match, I suppose. So yeah, that's pretty much the thing. And yep, your thoughts on Cam Green making a fortune in the IPL auction, going to the Mumbai Indians and the
Yeah, yeah, it was pretty crazy, wasn't it? Mumbai got him in the end. A bit of a bidding war, but they had to pay
oh,
top dollar
Mumbai got
for him.
in the end. Mumbai got in the end as well.
So yeah, I think Cameron Green would be delighted with getting paid 3 million Australian dollars of something like that. No doubt he's going to be quite interesting to see how he
Yeah,
goes
but
in the IPL.
they have
Obviously,
to
he
play
hasn't
him.
played much
Now the
T20
thing
cricket.
is, they have to play him, but I would prefer him opening. I think Rohit Sharma will drop down. He should in some regards, but I don't think he will. So maybe Cam Green can be seen finishing off innings. And we bought Sam Curran for
Mm.
what, 18.5 crores, which is a lot of money, a lot of money. And yeah, I was happy, but yeah, that's a crazy amount of money which these guys get, and sometimes it can be pressure. Happened to Maxwell, has happened to
Mm.
Maxwell. So yeah, let's see how it
Yes,
goes.
it'll be interesting to see how he goes, Cameron Green. But he hasn't played much T20 cricket. I suppose people got excited what he did in India in
Yeah,
that series recently,
that's what bought
where
him
he
the
opened
money.
the batting.
That's what
But
that's what gave him the money basically. That
mm,
series. So
he's definitely a talent. Disappointing that he got injured in this Test match. He won't be
yeah,
playing in Sydney with that broken finger. But let's hope he batted well for the 50 today. You know,
yeah,
to
yeah,
do
yeah.
that under
Guts,
tremendous pain, especially with your finger, it's not easy gripping the
not
bat.
easy.
But
That's
he
guts.
batted well for his half century and he took fifer, so it will give him tremendous confidence
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
going forward. Ganesh says New Zealand, none for
Yeah, I was
178 in their
actually
Test
coming to
match
that
against.
Dinesh update to that fun like Conway's out. So 183 for
Oh,
one.
is he?
And just
Well, they've lost the
now,
wicket there in New Zealand.
good review by
Their Test
Pakistan.
match against
Oh,
Pakistan.
8 runs shy of his century, 92 of 176 deliveries. A well deserved, maybe not a well deserved because he got a lucky break. Pakistan didn't take the review yesterday. So he's out in the 90s, anyways. So 183 for one. Uh,
Yep, that Test match happening at the moment. Pakistan, New Zealand, 2 Test series, and Pakistan will be hoping to bounce back after the disappointing series against England, losing 3-0.
That's
John
ball.
says South Africa couldn't deliver the final blow today after the early wickets and the batsmen to come having injuries. They'll be disappointed with today's effort. Yeah, they will be. They'll be disappointed not to wrap it up quicker. Um, just hasn't been their Test match. Nothing's gone their way, and unfortunately, they've only got themselves to blame. Really, it wasn't a 189 all-out surface. It's a pretty good batting surface. It usually is at the MCG, and
Yeah,
they'll be disappointed, South Africa. But
pretty much, pretty much.
unfortunately for them, it's unlikely they'll draw this Test, and Australia most likely to wrap up this series and lead 2-0 when they go to Sydney next week for the new year. So, but they'll be pleased, Australia, with their performance today. Alex Carey, good to see him score a century. He batted well, good partnership with Green. David Warner batted well for his double century in the first innings, and quite unusual to retire Hurd on 200. Come back out, you face Nokia, you get bowled first ball for 200. It's like
Yeah.
getting out for a golden duck, but you make 200. So, but he batted well, Dave Warner. He proved his doubters wrong today. Yeah, in this Test match, and no doubt if Australia go on to win,
Uh,
he'll most likely be player of the match.
someone's asking to join Shannon Humphreys. May I join? That's the comment I see. Uh, just above the John comment that you
Yeah,
took.
I see it. Yep. So the news from Melbourne is that the
What
big
else?
covers are coming on. We
What
had the
else?
little covers on for a bit. I think the rain's just got a little bit heavier, so the big covers are on. This was forecast, the rain to come, so we'll keep talking. We'll keep wittering away. Any more
Yeah, yeah.
questions?
Your thoughts on the Big Bash? How so far? How is that? How has it got?
Big Bash, yes.
Barring that shocker of a 15 all out, how has it gone?
Well, if you're a Sydney Thunder supporter, not well.
I
But
am.
I'm an
I am.
Adelaide Strikers
I am
supporter, so I was
because
quite happy.
I am following Sydney Thunder just for one reason, because our head coach is their head coach. So I want to see how they do, because
Yes, Trevor Bayliss. Yes, he's coach of Sydney Thunder. It was bizarre
he
watching it.
yeah,
It was
very good.
unreal. It's just wickets
Unreal.
fell every ball,
I
and
mean, that's the beauty of cricket, I see, because as a cricket fan over the years, what, 14, 13 years, you think you've seen everything, right? From
mm,
baseball to whatever, Steve Buckner to baseball, let's say. You've seen everything, and then this springs up on you, and you. I remember I was sleeping because obviously game start at 2 here, so I don't get to watch that much of BBL. I wake up, I have like 500 messages on my group. I'm like, either someone has got a ton or something bizarre has happened, and it was the second one. I saw like 15 all out. Jeez, that it
mm.
was it a video game? No, no, no. This was real
No, it
cricket.
wasn't. It was pretty crazy, and it was unreal watching it. But I was very delighted being an Adelaide Strikers supporter, of course. And the Strikers have done well this season. They're on the top of the
Yeah,
table,
up on the top. Yeah, and
along with the Scorchers in second place, and
yeah,
the
but they
Renegades have
lost.
done
They
well.
lost. They
They've
lost the
certainly
last two,
improved.
so they need to come back. They lost. They lost.
John says, I've been critical of Green, but his efforts in this test have been excellent. Showed the sort of grit that I respect in that 50. This
Yeah,
sound silence gave for a few minutes.
yeah,
It would, John.
yeah.
But he batted well today, Cameron Green, and he got a fifer in the first. And it's just disappointing that he won't be playing the last test of the summer because of that fracture to his finger.
Yeah.
But it's good to see that. You got to grit it out in test cricket, and people admire that.
This is
And
like
you just got to push through the pain, and that's what he did, and
Pujara kind
got a
of
half
innings.
century, which is good.
Yeah, Pujara kind of innings that he played in Melbourne when he got hit here, there,
Mm.
and we don't know.
You just need one of those innings, really, in your career where you got to grit it out, and you're under some pain. And many batters have copped hits on the hand and the fingers, and like Graham Smith, he broke his hand against
Yes,
against
Graham
Australia
Smith,
in
Graham Smith.
Sydney. He batted out and tried to bat out for a draw.
Ravi
Unfortunately, got
Ashwin,
bowled by
Ravi
Mitchell
Ashwin,
Johnson.
sorry, Hanuma Vihari, very recent example with that
Yes, he
back
did a
back.
hamstring, didn't he, in Sydney, and
uh,
he had to bat out with Ashwin, and they were able to salvage the draw. But now Cameron Green's really been good in this Test match. A fifer and a 50 is pretty good. Hopefully, he can build on this, and it will just boost his confidence, as we've seen from Alex Carey today. The way he batted, you could see him grow in confidence and starting to believe that I can actually do this at this level. Once
Yeah,
you get the first century or the first wicket as a batter and a bowler, you get that belief, and he's certainly got that belief, and hopefully for him, he can contribute going into the future for Australia as a keeper. But still raining in Melbourne. The summary of the match: South Africa 1 for 15 in the second innings. They trailed by 371 runs to make
is
Australia bat again, which is
who's that
unlikely.
player? Who's that player?
Australia need.
Is Aaron Hardy making his debut in the New Year's Test? That's what I'm
That's
hearing.
what I was talking about before, and it's quite interesting to hear people's thoughts on this. He is a like-for-like replacement with Cameron Green.
Yeah,
All-rounder, can bat, can bowl. They're from the same state. He may be an outsider to debut if you want a like-for-like replacement. Mitchell Starc, his replacement is probably straightforward. You probably go with Hazelwood,
yeah,
or
yeah.
you go with Lance Morris, who
I'll,
bowls pretty quick.
if Australia win this, which they might, I would like to see Morris get a go, man. He was like, I thought that he'll get some interest in that auction as well, just
Mm.
because of the video that came out when he was beating Green all ends up in the net with the pink ball, I guess. So he seemed like a good prospect
Yeah,
from.
yes, he really was. He may get a go, like-for-like replacement with Starc potentially, if Hazelwood's not quite fit yet. But
What's
Hazelwood,
happened with him? Like, is he also like injured on and off? Like I haven't
he
seen him
hasn't
live.
played enough Test cricket or first-class cricket, because when Australia toured Sri Lanka and Pakistan, he didn't play.
Yeah,
I think he played the first Test in Pakistan, didn't play the second or third, and then in Sri Lanka, didn't play at all. So he just has a lack of first-class cricket under his belt, basically. He hasn't got the overs in his system, and he hasn't got that match condition.
And
So he's a bit underdone. So that's why he's picking up these injuries. The side strain's the same one as he picked up last year when he missed the Ashes. But he was touch and go for Melbourne. He was nearly 100%, but he thought, you know what, I'll just leave it for another few weeks. And Scott Boland, obviously, you know, he can do no wrong. You can't drop Scott Boland after what he's done.
whatever since that Ashes test, whatever he does turns into gold. So
Pretty much
he,
does. He's been very good, Scott Boland.
he's been good.
You know, takes wickets in his first over, gets 2 or 3. He's just very good. Yeah, so it'll be interesting to see what they do in Sydney. Or do they go with 2 spinners, SCG?
SCG
A lot drier this summer.
Generally turns. What's the weather like in Sydney?
Well, it's sort of been hot and a little bit of rain as well. But
then if majority of it is hot, then you can expect the wicket to dry out.
Well, that's the thing. I don't think Australia should go with 2 spinners. We got Lyon, and then you got Labuschagne, and you got Head, who can bowl spin. If you want to keep the balance of the side right, I think the balance that Australia's got at the moment is pretty good, and I think they want to keep that balance for Sydney. But when we go to the subcontinent, you want to play 2 spinners, of course.
I think you'll have to take someone with Lyon just in case as an injury backup. You need to take 2 spinners. But who is your number 2 spinner at the moment in the whole of the country, if I may ask? Not even in the 15.
Most likely be Mitchell Swepson, because he's played already, so he's probably number 2. And then you've got Todd Murphy, who's been talked about a lot from Victoria. He bowls similar to Nathan Lyon. And then you've got Ashton Agar, who's hasn't played Test cricket for a while yet.
So that might be the Achilles heel. That might be the Achilles heel for Australia, because if you're coming to India, you can't really depend.
You need 2 spinners on those surfaces in India.
What venues you're playing at is, I think Delhi is one of them. So but Mumbai is one where you got red soil, so maybe same movement on there, and then I think you go up north to Dharamshala. That's what I need to say.
I think we go up there. Yes. I think Dharamshala is one of the Test matches. So. It'll be interesting to see how Australia go. It's going to be a tough tour.
Nagpur, Delhi, Dharamshala, and then Ahmedabad.
But it'll be interesting to see what Australia do for selection for the next test. But anyway, that's next week. That's the next test. Let's just focus on
your thoughts on the team. Your thoughts on the team that came out for India. Like today morning, right? It came out, and Hardik Pandya is now like he's the T20 captain. Rohit and Kohli, are they rested or are they permanently? We don't know yet. Out of the T20 squad, and then you see Shikhar Dhawan being axed, and then do you see if I want to ask, do you reward Ishan Kishan for his 200 and give him consistent chances, or do you see Shubman Gill taking over the opening reins with Rohit Sharma? Looking at the World Cup as well, not just the series, but the World Cup coming up in 23.
Well, he made 200. You don't make that every day in one-day cricket, and people say, well, it was against Bangladesh. It wasn't against, but still, to make 200 doesn't matter what opponent you play against. It's still a pretty good effort. Probably after Rohit Sharma retires, maybe he could be the next in line.
Yeah.
But I think if Rohit Sharma's still playing, he's still fit, and he's still able, I think he'll continue for the next few years to be the opener. And then you think about potential succession planning, whether you go with Kishan or Rahul or someone else.
Rahul pretty much bats in the middle order. So I was asking about Shubman Gill. How do you see him there?
You could go with Shubman Gill. He's promising. He's just scored a Test century, hasn't he? So he's not bad. He's still learning his craft. So India's got a lot of options.
That's the problem.
You've got a lot of options to choose from. So it's very hard just to give someone a consistent go because you've got so many players who are coming through. So it'd be interesting to see where they go.
Over the year, I think if you review the 2022 for the Indian team, it's been that in that we have won everything in the bilateral. There's nothing we've left which we've not won. But when it comes to the knockout, then you're not sure of who you're. I want them to identify 22 for the World Cup, 22 players. Like these might be the potentials. Then come down to a 15 from that, which Australia did in the Ashes that they played in England way back then, where they had a practice match and they identified players from there. So that's a good technique which you can use.
Yes.
Going there.
So the news from Melbourne, it's still raining. Unfortunately, that's all the news we got.
What do they say?
Let's hope the rain clears away.
How bad is the rain?
Well, the big covers are on. It was forecast
Need
today.
to resume before 5:45. So what's the time in Melbourne? 5:45.
It is nearly 5 o'clock in Melbourne. Nearly 5 o'clock. Yeah. So we're getting to that point where we think about stumps or something like that. But let's hope it stays away. The covers are still on. The crowd has disappeared underneath the stands for a bit of shade from the rain. So that's all we got for the time being. But Australia will be happy that they got one wicket already. And they'll be eager to get back out there and get a few more before the end of the day's
I
match.
think they'll wrap it up tomorrow, if not today. They'll wrap it up pretty much.
I think they most likely
unless until someone comes out of the blue.
But I don't see South Africa anyone batting for a long period of time, because
I think this match getting over in post lunch. That's pretty much it.
It could happen. I think people just want to see South Africa show a bit of fight, and they do show some fight. But
I'll be surprised if someone does with the way, because once a batting lineup is on the downhill in a series, then the confidence is really hard to get back. The batsmen start to be fearful, anyways. So
yes.
That's just. I mean, we thought that South Africa, they're back to where they belong with the way they're going in Test cricket. There was a time which they were down and out. Once AB, Amla, De Kock now also gone. So maybe this is a rebuilding phase, or or was it over? We don't know. We don't know for sure. South African cricket.
Yeah, it's interesting times for South Africa. John says, I'll take 5 wickets and a 50 any day of the week, and twice on Sunday for an all-rounder.
Yeah.
That's pretty good. He played pretty well, Cameron Green. It's disappointing that he got injured, but he's definitely a vital player in this Australian team.
Oh, don't talk about...
Shannon says you cannot drop Warner or Carey. No, I don't think they're going anytime soon. I think David Warner's cemented his spot potentially for the India tour.
Yeah,
probably.
See, Jack, the players who played in the IPL, they have to go because of the experience they have in those conditions. Even if
that's right, they do, and definitely David Warner's played a lot in India, of course.
And you can't get a safer keeper than Alex Carey, given his technique in spinning conditions. He'll do really well. You have to take a bloody good keeper to subcontinent, otherwise half of your match is done there. If you drop a chance here and there, then
that's right. A lot of people have criticised Carey with his keeping a bit, especially when Australia were in Pakistan and Sri Lanka. But you get tough chances over there. If the ball spins sharply, you miss it, or goes for buys or whatever. But he's showed some improvement. He works hard on his keeping, Carey, and now he scored a century today. It will definitely boost his confidence going forward in the long term for Australia. So yeah, Warner and Carey are not going anywhere soon. John says Sydney has been nice, a little rain, not as hot as Melbourne. A little overcast this afternoon, hard to predict what weather we do in the new year.
Here's some breaking news. Russell Dominigo, the Bangladesh coach, resigns with immediate effect 15 minutes ago. That's what we are getting.
Thanks for that. But it'll be interesting to see what the weather is like in Sydney. It's quite unpredictable this time of year. It either rains, it's either hot, or doesn't rain, or whatever. Very hard to predict, but let's hope the rain doesn't come in Sydney for the next test in a week's time. But the news here from Melbourne, it's still raining. The cover's still on. We're just having a nice chat, and if you've got more questions, we're happy to answer them.
Oh yeah.
Whether or not we get back on or not remains to be seen.
Remains
But,
to be seen, yeah.
the rain's falling a little bit. Covers are on. And Australia in a very dominant position. South Africa 1 for 15 after 7 overs. They lost the wicket of Dean Elgar, caught down the leg side by Cummins.
What is the game at the BBL today?
You mean tonight's BBL match? Who's playing tonight?
It's Sixers against the Renegades.
Yeah, the Sydney Sixers and the Melbourne Renegades are playing tonight on the Big Bash. And they'll be doing battle. And
Sydney Cricket Ground, Sydney. Oh, okay. So it's the Sixers. Yeah.
Yeah, that's tonight's game. That should be an interesting game. The Renegades are in good touch. They've improved from last year.
From last year. Oh, yeah. Big time. And the real reason is Akil Hussain, who's shotting bombs with the new ball. And he got a contract for it. Well done to Akil Hussain, off to SRH for 2023 IPL. So Brand Lara saw something and he chucked him up at a base price. So you got Adil Rashid there, you got Akil Hussain there, you got Phillips, you got Markram. Now the only problem they have is you got Janssen. How do they fit 4 overseas? That's the only problem they have. They got Harry Brook for 13 crores, so you can't drop Harry Brook. You have to play Aiden Markram. Now how do you fix? They got Klaassen, so they've got super players, but how do they play on? They can play only 4. So that's the thing they have.
Yep. So still raining in Melbourne, and
I was recording somewhere that South Africa haven't lost 200 in the.
We got nothing much to add on to. What's happening at the moment? Still the same news. It's covers on. It's still raining.
I'm looking for stuff to add on to. Wait. There's always stuff to add on to in cricket. There's always something happening.
Yes, there is. But we can have a nice chat with everyone. Thanks for joining us, everyone. By the way, this is Ran from the Direct Hit. I've been on his channel many times before. If you want to go over and hear his thoughts about the game, you can. Ran, where can they find you?
You can find me on YouTube, guys, the Direct Hit, and you can follow me on Instagram as well. We are now associated with the Punjab Kings, and you can find me on their YouTube channel as well. We are associated with them as like fans, and you can see I wear this thing when I go on. So I have this shirt on. So when we hop on to their channel, and if I can, what I'll do is I'll make it easy for you guys to find me. I'll just leave a comment, and which would be my link to my channel. Hopefully it takes you there.
As you do that, Ran, we get to John's question here. You say, John Green, will he become a genuine all-rounder like Callis or a number 6 batting all-rounder? Interesting insight from Sean Pollock in commentary. Well, you could see he's got skills with both bat and ball. Can he potentially become a Jack Callis? Well, he probably won't reach the same heights as Callis, obviously. It's very hard to replicate someone else who's been dominant in the game as he was. He's definitely got potential to do well with both bat and ball, Green.
He has.
At the moment, he's more of a batting all-rounder than a bowler. But he definitely adds a lot of skills to this Australian side, and he'll definitely be an important part for them going forward. So he can potentially do well in both disciplines, but it's very hard as an all-rounder to do both very well.
Too early for me. Too early in his career to go that stretch. Jack Callis is obviously one of the greats of the game, the legend, and if he achieves half of it, he should be happy. He should be chuffed of what he has achieved, Cam Green. And why are we going to South Africa? Even if we look at one of the greatest all-rounders, Andrew Simons, who did so well, the late Andrew Simons, who did so well for Australia in Tests in every format. So if he does even as good as Roy, he should be proud of himself for what he's done for the country, for the Australian team. So yeah.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see. But this Test match will give him confidence. Scoring the 50 in the second innings with an injury, battling through that pain, and also taking a fifer in the first innings, his first fifer in Test cricket, will definitely boost his
Um,
confidence. So he's young, he's raw, he's learning his craft, but he can definitely be a very good all-rounder for Australia in the future, that's for sure. But let's not put pressure on him. Let's just let him enjoy his cricket and go about his business and
yeah.
see what he can do over the next few years. But he's definitely going to play for Australia for the next 10 years or so.
Oh yes, he's got plenty of time on his hand. Don't worry about that.
Yesterday, John Pollock sought advice from Botham early in career. Botham said, as a batter, you have to score quickly, otherwise you're on the field all day. Green's strike rate is under 50 at the moment. Yeah, it is. Obviously for Green, obviously he's just learning his craft as a batter and trying to bat better when it comes to starting an innings. He's a bit of a nervous starter, but he's got that ability to be aggressive, as we saw
He
on
can
some
catch up.
occasions.
He can catch up later. That's not a problem with the way he's got the shots. So yeah. And Jack, just a question. Can you see my comment that I just? I mean,
Yes, I can. I'll put that in
yeah.
the link, in the
I,
comment
I,
section for everyone. Ran's YouTube channel, the direct hit. If you
Jack
want to
has been on
check him
there.
out,
First
he's
of all, you guys can obviously just hit that like button and subscribe to the Dibbly-Dobbly podcast as well. Keep supporting the cricket community, I guess, on
yep.
YouTube and social media. So yeah, if you want to check out my channel, the last video we did is an IPL auction review, I guess. Yeah, that's the last video we did, and just reviewing the playing 11s, and we'll do a bit of content on BBL as well. Just round of the the teams play 14 games in BBL, if I'm right.
I think they play 13. I think I have to
13, yeah. So
13. Yeah, 13. Yeah.
like the first round, we'll do a round of, so plenty of cricket content coming. It's just that I'm in Canada, so the time differences are so drastic that the cricket going around the world is hard to catch. I'm in the other part of the world. That's the only reason. I lag behind, but yeah. Pollock advice from Botham early in career. Yeah, score quickly otherwise. Hmm.
So the news from Melbourne still the same. It's still raining. So
We
that's
can
frustrating.
drift on to we can drift on to this Pakistan Test match is currently going on. New Zealand about to touch 200. 99 for Latham on the brink of a century, as we see. And yeah, your thoughts on Harry Brook though? 3 games, 3 centuries, not a easy feat to achieve, but he did that and that too in Pakistan. So yeah, thoughts on how he played that on that tour?
Played pretty well, I thought. In that series, he's a young, promising player. That England see a lot of potential in him.
Oh yeah,
He had a pretty good series in Pakistan, so no wonder he went for a lot of money in the IPL auction recently. But yeah, definitely a very bright talent for England, and it'll be interesting to see, whether he keeps his spot or Johnny Bairstow leaves him out of the side. It'll be interesting to see what happens there when England go to New Zealand, their next
that's
Test
gonna
series,
be
and
a
the start of
that's
next
gonna
year.
be a yeah, big dilemma, I guess. A big dilemma for
I
someone
guess
like.
it's a good dilemma to have, I suppose. Players performing and doing well for England, which they've been playing well at the moment in Test cricket. Bazball certainly come on
Working
very well. So
at the moment, working
at
well.
the moment,
Baseball.
but some exciting cricket, that's for sure. So if anyone's got more comments, questions, we'd be happy to answer them.
Yep.
And we'll be here until either Stumps are called or we get back on for a few overs
Oh,
more if this
but
rain clears.
as of now, things are looking a bit gloomy in Melbourne, and as the time passes, we near Stumps.
So we had a bit of a delay this morning. There was a few little showers this morning, so
Mm,
uh, we had to make up time in that second session. It was a bit of a long second session. No doubt we'll probably start an extra half an hour early tomorrow if we can't get back on tonight, which is usually the standard protocol whenever we have a bit of a rain delay in a test match. But South Africa, big challenge for them. And people who have voted in the poll, I asked the question, do you think that South Africa will bat out for a draw? Most people have said, yes, they can, 56%. Most people have said no, 44%. So interesting to hear everyone's thoughts on that. Personally, it's going to be a bit of a challenge for the
I agree
players.
with Jack. More than a
But
challenge,
you never
I
know.
guess.
You never know. Anything is possible.
More than a
But
challenge.
I see Australia probably wrapping up this test match and wrapping up the series and being far the better side and the better team in this series. And for South Africa, just disappointing with their performances with the bat in this series. Their bowling at times has been threatening, but not consistent. And that is the concern that they had in this series. So
Yep.
Australia definitely on their way to cementing potentially a place in the World Test Championship final, which is going to be next year at the Oval. Will it be either South Africa or India? That remains to be seen as we get nearer and nearer to that. And it'll be interesting to see what happens there. But still rain falling at the MCG. Nothing much to report on. Covers are still on, and let's hope that the rain can dissipate and we can have a few more overs before the end of the day's play. But definitely a day of domination for Australia, that's for sure, as they look to wrap up this series and go 2-0 up with one to play in Sydney next week. Any more questions in the chat and the comments? We'll be happy to answer them.
Plenty of people are watching though, so yeah.
That's good. Thanks for watching, everyone. Make sure you subscribe. We've seen more people subscribing, which is fantastic. Let's get to 600 if we can.
Yep.
That'll be good. That's our next goal. We're nearly approaching 550, so we're going to raise the bat for a 550. So yeah, let's try and get to 550 and 600 if we can. John says, I think only rain can save South Africa. Should be over by lunch on the 5th day.
Yeah, as we say, John, post lunch, or post lunch, whatever happens.
May finish tomorrow, you never know, but the pitch hasn't really deteriorated much. There's been a few foot marks and nothing really out of the ordinary, really. Not too many problems for the batters to face on this pitch. If you bowl in the right areas and build pressure, you'll get batters making mistakes. But
I think technique-wise, if you are analyzing techniques, they're not short of their off stump. Just swing at balls outside off.
And lack of footwork as well. They're stuck on the crease, not moving their feet. They're playing away from their body, not playing compactedly as you're meant to as a batter. Play close to your body. So definitely a challenge for South Africa, but you've got to believe that you can do it, and you never know. You never know. It's going to take an almighty effort to do that for 2 days. For Australia, just 9 more chances, really. 9 good deliveries. You have to break it down that way. Bowl 9 good balls tomorrow. If you can do that, Australia go on to win this test match and wrap up this series. So, but this is test cricket. It's definitely a test and challenge of everything, your technique, your mental capacity, your willpower, your resilience, your belief. And definitely we saw that in this test match.
Just an update, 13th test done comes up for Tom Latham, so he does well there. And reach 200, so yeah.
It'll be interesting to see what they can do, South Africa, in this test match. But definitely a challenge. Rely heavily on Elgar. Now he's gone for a duck. He's back in the pavilion. So it'll be difficult for South Africa to try and get something out of this test match. But can their batters show some fight and some resilience and
I think
grind it out? It's going to be a big test.
Dennis Debruyne last scored a ton in Sri Lanka. I was just happened to catch the highlights of the test match, and he got a ton in Sri Lanka and then just vapored away. He didn't come on the scene after that, making a comeback into the South African side. The back of
That's
domestic.
the problem with South Africa. They're batting at not anyone averages 40. The highest average is Dean Elgar with 38, and Bavuma averages 30, but everyone else is averaging 20 and below, which is an indication of their batting and where they're at the moment as a batting side. Compare that to Australia. You've got Smith and Marnus averaging 60, and you've got David Warner averaging 40 with Khawaja as well. So it's a big difference there.
We have injured bowlers, have to factor that in. I would have liked to see what Lion could do today if it had rained. Don't think he'll get a turn today. Maybe everyone will get a turn tomorrow, John. Today seems a bit difficult with the weather. Maybe.
You say John, pitch is still good, not much turn, and we have injured bowlers. Have to factor that in. I'll have like to see what Lion could do today if it hadn't rained. Don't think he'll get a turn today now. Now, this rain's frustrating. He'll do a lot of bowling, Nathan Lyon, but good signs that Mitchell Starc is bowling. And he got the ball to swing a little bit, so that's good, despite his injured finger. So it's good that Australia have him being able to bowl, obviously, not relying on three main bowlers in Lyon, Bowl and Cummins, obviously. Cameron Green's not bowling at all, obviously. But Australia can definitely create 9 more chances and definitely get something out of this surface. And they would have liked to be out there still in this last session. Gloomy, overcast, the ball was swinging a bit. You want to bowl in those conditions. Unfortunately, the rain has had other plans, but they'll be delighted to take 1 wicket tonight. So that's pretty good. And they'll be happy with that. But be interesting to see how they go tomorrow on day 4. But Australia definitely in the box seat, and they should be able to win this test match and win the series, which would be good. They haven't won a series, Australia against South Africa in Australia. Not since 2005-06. It's a long time ago.
Yeah.
But they're looking to break that drought this time around. And for South Africa, they talked a few words before this series about how we're going to come hard at Australia and how we've dominated in the past, but they haven't really delivered on that.
That David Warner issue also came up.
Yes, what happened with Warner and Smith and
that Fab du Plessis is releasing his book also.
There were a few words exchanged before this series, but I think it happened a few years ago now, so I think we should just move on and look forward. But it's always going to be talked about every now and again. But I think this is more like a closing of the chapter with Warner and Smith playing against South Africa and hopefully shutting that chapter for good and looking forward into the future. So, and I think they've done that. David Warner's certainly done that. This double century in this test. Steve Smith as well has probably put that behind him. But as John says, Lyon might have snuck in for a couple this evening. He might have. I think he would have bowled a couple of overs maybe.
John seems a big fan of Nathan Lyon, which is good. Yep.
Well, he's got over 450 test wickets, Nathan Lyon, so he's done pretty well. He's certainly moving up the list when it comes to leading wicket takers in test cricket of all time. And hopefully he'll probably get past 500, which will be pretty good. Thanks everyone for liking the stream and subscribing. It's great to see so many of you tuning in. And we weren't able to do this in the last test. watch along or live stream because the last test match in Brisbane finished in 2 days. So we weren't able to stream on day 3, but today we were able to do it, as this test match is not going to finish in 2 days. It's certainly going to go into day 4 and potentially day 5. Depends if Australia get the job done tomorrow, getting the last 9 wickets for victory. South Africa well behind in this game, and they'll be disappointed, as we've talked about, with their results in this series. And this test summer, for me, and it'd be interesting to hear everyone's thoughts on it. Well, the West Indies series wasn't competitive. We expected that Australia should win that series easily, and they did, 2-0. Everyone thought that this South Africa series was going to be competitive.
It turned out to be the opposite.
Hasn't really turned out that way at all. So this summer is probably, a bit one-sided in Australia's favour. You would like to see the opposition play well and really compete with Australia, but just shows where the West Indies are at with their cricket and South Africa where they're at with their cricket, and shows where Australia's at. Definitely dominating and playing some good test cricket, which is good to see from the Australian point of view. West Indies, South Africa, just shows where they're at as a cricketing nation.
More so South Africa would be the one that fans will be disappointed by because of the bowling attack they had. They brought to the Aussie shores, and I think more so these guys are effective in conditions where they seam and swing rather than bounce, because we've seen them. They're not bowling that foolish length even in Australia, which creates the trouble for the batsmen. They've been too wide to someone like Travis Head in that innings, where his strong point is square of the wicket on the offside. They kept feeding him there, and
Yes.
he kept. So I don't know. We are analysts, but they also carry a cricket analyst with them who has so much more knowledge than us. Then what analysis are helping them? Obviously, it's a test match, so you don't analyze that much in a test match as compared to a T20. But at least you know the strong and the weak points of like certain batters, certain bowlers. So they haven't got a clear plan. I think the bowlers from South Africa, and that's pretty much the sad story. I'm wondering if the same situation would have taken place had the series been in South Africa. I'm just pondering over those thoughts. Had it been the same,
It'll probably be the same, but you would think the conditions are similar and they don't change as much. I did hear that South Africa don't have an analyst. I did hear that they don't have an analyst with them, so that doesn't help. It just shows their budgets and money. You all know that in world cricket.
I'll apply. I'll apply very happily. I need the email of the board. I'll apply. I'll apply to that side. Yeah.
So it just shows that South Africa, where they're at as a cricket side. But I found it quite surprising that they were actually number 2 in the WTC standings, given they've got problems with their batting and their bowlers have pretty much got them out of a
But
jam.
we need to see the conditions, Jack. Most of the series where they played, that's South Africa. So yeah, home conditions, they made use of it. And
yeah, that's right. It depends who they versed in the cycle. Obviously, they haven't played. They've played England, they've played Australia, they've played India, which are tough opponents, and they won against India. They lost against England. They're going to lose potentially here against Australia. So, yeah, it's interesting for South Africa. But they've got the West Indies next after this series, and you would think they should win that series in their home conditions.
yeah.
John says, we had to bat South Africa out of the game given our injuries. Have heard some criticism about Pat not declaring earlier and Green scoring slowly at the start of his innings. Nonsense. Yeah, he didn't have to declare Pat. He only declared when Mitchell Starc got hit on the helmet. No, Australia had plenty of time. They could do whatever they want. They could leave South Africa on the field for 3 sessions and Australia get 400-run lead. But Cameron Green, he was fighting through the pain. That's why he was slow in terms of his batting, but then he started to play some shots and branch out and be aggressive. So Australia, everything went to plan for them today. They kept South Africa out in the field, and that's what you need to do when you're in this position. So I think they did the right thing. They don't have to declare early or whatever, so they still have that time to really set up this test match, which they have. So Pat Cummins, he got it right, and he'll be very happy, no doubt about that. Covers are still on here at the MCG, which is not a good sign. Let's hope the covers can come off and we get some play. There's some movement from the ground staff. I believe they're going to remove the covers, I think. The rain has cleared. I don't know if it has or not, but the covers are still on. Ground staff are moving around on the ground. We'll keep you updated as we just have chats and talk about this series and talk about other things that are happening in the world of cricket. Raj, hello, Raj. Hope you're well. Thanks for joining us. There's some movement. The ground staff are on the covers. They're walking around the perimeter of the covers. They're looking to... Okay. So the news is from the MCG, it's Stumps. There we go. We just got that confirmed. So that will be the end of the day's play.
Yeah.
And the rain has fallen very heavily, nearly 5:30 local time in Melbourne. So it wasn't likely for the ground staff to get the covers off and get in time.
Pretty much expected with the amount of Test cricket we've watched as outside viewers in Australia over the years, and Stumps. The fat lady has sung. The rain has had the final say, and back to the hotel for everyone, I guess.
Raj says, dang it. Yeah, sorry about that, Raj. Well, it's the rain, it's the Melbourne weather. It's unpredictable. It was hot yesterday, and then it was cold and miserable the next day with the rain around. So stumps have been called. We'll have a bit of a discussion. If you've got more questions, we'll answer them before we wrap up and say our goodbyes. But if you've got more questions, we'll be happy to answer them in the comments and talk about looking forward to tomorrow, what's going to happen on day 4 as we talk about that and look forward in this test match. John says, Pat declared when the 10-minute change of innings lapsed before tea. Clever, in my opinion. Don't think Mitch getting scone had much to do with it. No, not really. He just saw that as the perfect opportunity to declare, really, because it was the end of the over, and obviously you've got to declare when the ball's dead. So that was the right time for Australia to declare at that time. But, he saw that as the right opportunity, Pat, and he made that decision, and that was good on his behalf as captain, getting those tactics right and having those discussions. But definitely he will be pleased with how today has gone.
Yeah, Raj says Australia will win it. Yeah, that's what we are saying. We are predicting it here also. So.
Raj says Australia will win it in the afternoon session tomorrow. They could potentially do that. Can South Africa bat for 6 sessions, 2 days to save this test? It's going to be a big challenge. It's unlikely, but you never know. You never know in this game. Weird things have happened.
98 overs tomorrow. That's what I'm getting confirmation. 98 overs on day 4. So
yes, we'll definitely start an extra half an hour tomorrow due to the rain that we had today and missing a large chunk of this last session, which was disappointing with the rain. So South Africa 1 for 15 after 7 overs at Stumps on day 3. They trail by 371 runs to make Australia bat again, which is unlikely. So it's most likely Australia would potentially win by an innings. It just depends how much. So Australia definitely in the box seat to win this test match to lead 2-0 in the series. Disappointing about the rain, but that's just the way it goes. Iran, how do you see tomorrow? What do you think is going to happen on day 4? How do you see things playing out?
I think as
we look ahead into day 4 and potentially day 5 of this test if it does get that far. But What are your thoughts on this game going into tomorrow? What do you think South Africa need to do? What do you think Australia need to do, given the injuries, balancing the bowlers? How do you think Pat will go
I
about
think
that? And
if
everyone in the chat, in the comments, let us know about what do you think is going to happen tomorrow,
yeah,
and
if
how
it,
should both teams go about it?
if overhead conditions remain the same, shouldn't be the heat shouldn't be too much of a problem. Pat can rotate himself, Starkey and Lion, maybe Manas with a few seam ups here and there, or leg spin, whichever he feels to do. Is he can bring that on. And for South Africa, well, they need to just take inspiration from that A.V. de Villiers and Hashim Amla innings that happened in Delhi, I guess, where they batted out most of their chunk, And who is yet to come who can do that? I'm impressed with Kyle Verena, how he played. Janssen played beautifully. Zondo, not too sure. Bavuma is one who can hang around. They haven't got much options, but if anyone has to do it, it has to start from Weir and Debruyne tomorrow. They have to bat at least 2.5 sessions to spike some inspiration without losing a wicket in that dressing room. Otherwise, it's done, dusted, hunky dory, and Australia winning it. If they lose couple of wickets in the session, I think it's gonna fall like a pack of cards, and yeah, Australia are gonna wrap it up.
Yep, pretty much the same thoughts I had as well. Um, John says, please don't give us 30 odd run chase to win. They make me nervous. Well, it was like that in the last test, but I don't think that will happen, John. I think Australia should bowl them out easily before South Africa make them bat again. I don't see South Africa getting 300 because they haven't made 300 for a while. They haven't made 200 in a while. So they'll definitely win by an innings, you hope, Australia. So you don't have to worry about that, John. But it was nervous at the Gabba last week. But thank goodness for the most underrated player in the team, and that was Extras. So he contributed, and he top scored with 19.
Yeah.
So at least Australia can rely on Extras to get them over the line. Raj says, I wanted South Africa to win this series, so there are stakes for both sides in the Border Gavaskar Trophy, but that's asking too much. Raj says 2015, yes, 10 hours, both de Villiers and Amla. They lost, though. Did they lose? I think.
Yeah, they
lost.
lost. They lost, but that was. I mean, we've seen A.B. de Villiers. Obviously, he comes every year for the IPL, and we've seen him smack at 200. That was very uncharacteristic, first of all, and second of all, to think that AB can do it just blew my mind away as an Indian fan, and just to see him stick it out on a Delhi Turner, uh, brilliant, brilliant, and you don't see that too often. But India pulled it through, so yeah, India won in the end. So yeah, that's what happened.
Yes, that was unbelievable rearguard action from both of them, facing those deliveries and scoring so slowly. Raj says South Africa lost that test at the Fisher Kotla in Delhi. Last session lost. Thank you for that, Raj. Obviously, your memories are well clear there. Good to know. Any more questions, guys? We're happy to take more questions, answer. Obviously, disappointing about the rain in this last session, but we'll be happy to ask a few more questions. And
well, Rain is like the third player in the cricket because now
pretty much,
you
pretty
know
much
that
it is.
in the World Cup as well, it showed up well more than we would have liked, and yeah, still. Jack, what's with the weather, bro? It's really mind-boggling to see rain at this time of the year in
Yeah, it's just a weather pattern in Australia, really, that we've had over the
yeah.
last few months. During the T20 World Cup, and now it's just been a wet summer, wet spring. So that happens. It's the weather. It's unpredictable. It's frustrating. Look, anyone who watches cricket like we do, you always want to see cricket. You draw back the curtains, and you're hoping that today's game that you play doesn't get
Yeah.
affected by rain. So when you see sun and beaming down, you're like, yes, we're going to play some cricket today. Unlike in England or any other, countries that have rain, England, New Zealand, It's a bit cold and miserable. Oh well, that's just the way cricket goes, I
No,
suppose.
I'm not.
Raj says,
I never get disappointed with rains in England and New Zealand because that is kind of unexpected lines that you're gonna get it at some point during the Test match. So
yeah. Raj says I was 2021 Gabba nervous for that test, so I remember it fondly. Thanks for that, Raj. Good to hear that. Any more questions, everyone? Good to hear your thoughts. Sorry that we can't bring you any more play. Unfortunately, the Melbourne weather had some other plans today.
yeah.
But good to see people taking part in the poll. I've just ended the poll now in the chat, and a lot of people saying South Africa a chance to try and draw this match. Saying they can't do it. Australia in the bottom.
Either they have a lot of faith in South Africa or they have a lot of faith in this rain. So it's either way.
John says the Melbourne forecast is cloudy, 20 degrees for tomorrow. Ball might hoop around a bit. Yes, Mitchell Starc and Cummins got the ball to swing a little bit under lights. So that will be good for Australia. Get early wickets in the session. As you said, Iran, you get a few wickets with South Africa. The middle order, the tail enders, the tail enders especially, they just fall over like 9 pins. So if Australia can break it open tomorrow in the first session, I think it will be done by lunchtime, maybe after lunch, maybe at tea tomorrow on day 4.
Oh, even
potentially South Africa have to try
tea,
and.
If it goes to tea, I'll be surprised.
Raj says your streams are getting affected a lot in this series. Oh, they are. Well, we couldn't stream last test match because it ended on day 2. Day 3 today, we had a little bit of play in the last session, Raj, and then it rained. So that's just the way it goes. But we'll be definitely back for the Sydney test, that's for sure, on day 3. That's the next test in a week's time as we go into the new year. But definitely a series that's been affected, that's for sure. But nothing I can do. It's out of my control. But at least we're here having a chat about cricket, I suppose, which is a good thing. Good to see so many people tuning in and subscribing as well. It's fantastic to see so many of you liking the stream, subscribing. Please do. It really does help. Any more questions, everyone? For those who are listening, we're happy to take those questions and answer them about this series, Australia or South Africa, any other cricket going on at the moment. But
India, whatever, because I'm a kind of a nerd about cricket. Jack knows that. So whenever you plan a stream, it goes on for 3 hours because pretty much you can talk about, even you can throw in your questions about Ranji Trophy as well, which I've been following. So just throw whatever you want.
Raj says Pakistan, New Zealand is still going on. If anyone wants to take a look at that, yes, it is.
Yes, we have. We were taking a look at that. Latham gets a century, and another partnership on its way to getting stitched between Kane Williamson and Tom Latham. So
yes, definitely an interesting test match happening over there in Pakistan, between Pakistan and New Zealand, that's for sure. So we'll just recap what happened for anyone who may have not known, may have joined us, didn't know what happened. Australia early today declared their innings 8 for 575 declared. David Warner top scored with 200. Retired hurt, came back out, faced unranked Nokia. First ball got bowled for 200. But brilliant innings from him nonetheless. Alex Carey brought up his maiden test century, 111 for him. And good half centuries from Steve Smith, 85, Travis Head, 51, and Cameron Green, 51 not out to get Australia to that brilliant score of 8 for 575 declared. The South African bowlers toiled hard. 3 wickets for Nokia, by far the best of the South African bowlers, 3 for 92. 2 wickets for Rabada. A wicket each for Ngidi and Janssen. No wickets for Maharaj. He found it tough, the South African spinner. South Africa, in reply, lost the wicket, 115. And that was Dean Elgar for a duck. He got out, caught down the leg side by Carey, bowled by Cummins. And Mitchell Starc and Pat Cummins, causing some problems for the South African batters. So at Stumps on day 3, we had a bit of rain in this last session, which brought a close to the day's proceedings. So at Stumps, South Africa 115, trailing by 371 runs to make Australia bat again. And Australia just need 9 wickets to wrap it up and win by an innings and wrap up the series to lead 2-0 heading into Sydney for the last test of the series. Let's get to some people's questions and thoughts in the comments. We would love to hear what you have to say. Raj says, I am just sad we have been handicapped with no Bumrah and Jadeja and Shami. Want a full side for 2023.
That has to be asked to the NCA, man. We don't know what's going on. India have been deprived of their best 11 throughout the year, which just frustrates us as Indian fans.
Raj says it really has made it so much difficult for us. You say Raj, and because they are all format players, it has affected us in all formats. Yes. John says, how do you think India will prepare their pitches now with their quicks injured? Your thoughts on that, Aran? How do you think they'll go about preparing the pitches for the Test series against Australia, potentially?
Maybe starts to turn on day 3, but pretty much batting friendly on 1 and 2 days. And depends on ground to ground. And Dharamshala, Australia will enjoy Dharamshala with the cold conditions, and they'll get some seam movement up there. They might not enjoy Delhi that much because that's pretty much known to be the traditional turner of India. Nagpur, yes, big boundaries they might enjoy, and Mumbai obviously. Right, so
yeah, good to hear that.
Whatever, like whoever comes to India, Jack, you also know over the years they have to face spin some point or the other. So
yeah, it'd be interesting to see what happens there. Raj says it wouldn't have mattered if our quicks were all up. We would still prepare turners. I've got a question here, Aran. Do you think that now India have got strong bowlers in terms of Bumrah, Shami, and Siraj, etc.? Do you think that India should prepare bowler-friendly pitches, not rank turners as we associate with India and the subcontinent? Do you think that is their biggest strength, of course, but do you think they should produce pitches that have a bit more for the quicks as well, given that India are now excelling when it comes to fast bowling? Or do you think they're just going to stick with the same formula that's worked? We're going to play to our strengths. Because I've been toiling with this question for some time. It'd be interesting to get your thoughts on that.
Depends on the communication between the coach and the groundsman, Jack, because the preparations kind of start a week before a test match, and all depends on the captain, coach, and the groundsman, what conversation you are having as a home team. Because in the end, what the outcome of the pitch is going to come out, it has to be prepared a week before. So, I think not against the teams that are good against pace. Maybe New Zealand coming, we won't give a greenish track. Maybe if we need some crucial points and we're getting Sri Lanka on a plate, maybe we give them a spicier track. But if you go down memory lane, you remember that Pune T20I where India got bowled out versus Sri Lanka, right? For like 50, 60 or whatever. Since then, I haven't seen a spicy wicket in India at all, especially for test matches. Maybe people don't say it, but I can tell you there is a fear factor. There is a fear factor even for Australia. Every home team wants to do well, and one reason I can give you that Australia prepared a green seaming track at Gabba since that loss to India, that dented them, that dented their history, that dented the aura of Australia at the Gabba. They won't want to lose a test match going in the future at the Gabba because the fortress was breached, and that I think that also plays into that emotional side also plays into that. So a lot of things can be said, but yeah, all depends on what the home team wants in the end, and they have the right. They have the full right
Yeah.
to do so.
Ajit says King Kohli, highest run scorer in the World Cup, potentially next year, which will be in India.
Fingers,
Thoughts on that, Aran? He's
fingers crossed.
he's test form's quite interesting at the moment. Had a bit of a lean series in
It
Bangladesh.
gets how you light up a cracker. You need to there's a thread to the cracker, and you need to just give a bit of fire to it. You need to give that fire spikes in Virat Kohli in big tournaments. Some players are just made to flick the switch on in the big tournaments. And Virat Kohli, you've seen over the years how he does in the big tournaments. So yeah, I'm very chilled about that. I know he'll do well in the World Cup.
Yep. Um, Raj says, I mean, that's the point of away tours. Arjit says, King Curly, highest run scorer in the IPL next year.
Nah,
Do you think
nah, nah,
you,
nah, 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 Liam Livingston.
Livingston?
Liam Livingston, bro. He's got a rocket.
Um,
You're a RCB fan too, right? If I'm not wrong,
I
the
don't
last
have a team in the IPL.
we
I
don't have a
don't
team.
support any team in the IPL,
You don't
so,
support. Yeah, I remember.
so it doesn't really matter to me. Only in the Big Bash, I support the Adelaide Strikers. That's the only team I go for in any T20 domestic competition around the world. So doesn't really matter for me in the IPL. Just
Yeah,
want to see some good cricket, and it
yeah.
was quite an exciting auction. I was with Nick and Gabe from Cricket for Americans the other night when we did the auction. Crazy that how much money teams will bid for one player.
These are top up auctions, Jack. So
Mm.
you empty one slot, you target one player, and then you go after it. But what Rajasthan Royals did with Harry Brook was crazy. Absolutely crazy. They had 13.5, they went to 13. Just imagine SRH backing out and then what they're left with. Oh, that was crazy to see, that moment. Nicholas Pooran getting 16 crores despite the form he's shown over the years. Yikes.
Yes. That was interesting to see that. Raj says, I mean, what's the point of coming to India? Then, if you want to sing, you can go to England, South Africa, and Australia. Away tours to test the players in foreign conditions.
Yeah, agreed.
Thanks for that, Raj. Arjit says King Curly, highest run scorer in the World Cup, 500s. It'd be
Kohli
interesting
fan.
to see how he goes.
Arjit is a Kohli and an RCB fan, so that's very good. Keep keep up your support.
Yes, we're guessing that Virat Kohli is your favourite player. Why not? He's a pretty good player.
Yeah.
Had a few tough years, but he's starting to come back into his best. That innings he played in the T20 World Cup against Pakistan was one of the best probably knocks I've ever seen in T20
Yeah.
cricket when it comes to a World Cup. It was
Yeah.
unbelievable. Raj says, if we start preparing seaming wickets, where will the spinners show their talent?
True, true.
He also say, Raj, nowhere else can they show their worth.
I think the worth of a spinner increases even more if he goes out
Hmm.
and performs in England or whatever conditions. So
Yeah.
yeah.
So Arjun says India win ODI series against Sri Lanka. That's happening at the moment, isn't it? It's going to happen in a few weeks, isn't it? India and Sri Lanka.
Third Jan the T20 starts. So
Yeah, but India at home, you would think India should win. Best of three, and I think there's some T20s as well. Is there?
three
Yeah.
ODIs, three T20s. So
Yeah. So I think India should dominate the series there. You used to say RCB winning IPL next year.
right now, the surprising thing would be we lose a Mastercard series rather than we get knocked down in the World Cup So that's how the Indian fans. This year has been bizarre. This year has been one of the most bizarre years as an Indian fan. From Virat Kohli's issue right at the start of the year to this T20 World Cup exit, and the chopping and changing in the team, the changing of the captains, the changing of the coaching staff. Very confusing year as an Indian fan, and a year we would like to kind of forget as Indian fans getting knocked out of the Asia Cup as well. So yeah, it happens. It's cricket. It happens. So looking forward to a good 2023, hopefully. Yeah.
Yeah, hopefully. Arjun says again, India versus Australia WTC
Looks
final
like it. Looks like
potentially.
it. Looks like it potentially.
Looks like it. With South Africa losing potentially this series, it looks pretty likely, you would think, but there's still some series to be played out, and it'll be interesting to see if that could be the case. But that would be a pretty amazing final, that's for sure. Played at the Oval next
All
year
right.
potentially.
The final. It's India versus Australia versus rain. Don't forget that.
As we saw in the WTC final between New Zealand and India, rain affected that game. Had to go into 6 days, which was an interesting test match. Raj says India have been pretty consistent in tests. How would you sum up India's performances in test cricket this year, Aran? They
Very
just got over the
few
line against Bangladesh in the second test, but how would you see their 2022 in test cricket? It's been a bit
sample
up and
size.
down.
The sample size a bit too low to analyze anything because the year was primarily focused on T20 World Cup, uh, as in 2022, but did very well overall. I think in Bangladesh we won, and the previous tours as well. India did well in the test arena, and except for that South Africa, that was a really disappointing thing. And then going to England and losing that one of uh, test. 2022 has been a bit bizarre, but overall, yeah, pretty happy with the test team, and just scared a bit now with the kind of performance we saw against spin, especially India going down to spin was very disheartening to see. Our top order, and had it not been for Mr. Mominul Haq, we would we would have lost that too. That was a simple catch that he put down at short leg of Ashwin, and that bailed us out. So, to Indian fans out there, it's a victory. It's not a victory we can celebrate. We need to be a bit concerned with this victory. There are more concerns rather than a victory. Yeah, on the second test. So yeah,
Yep. Raj says not the best, but they have found ways to win it.
yeah.
He certainly nearly lost the second test against Bangladesh, but they were able to get over the line in that test and with that series 2-0 recently. So Raj says only loss were the one off test in England and the 2 losses in South Africa. Yep. Aret says MS Dhoni's last IPL win.
I'm not ready. I'm not ready for his last time. I'm not ready to see him go. In fact, that will be a shock for me. I mean, even if he's going from IPL, you don't know with him. He plays, for example, Chennai gets scheduled to play in Chennai with the first game. He plays the first game, you get the news, bam. Ben Stokes gets the captaincy, and Dhoni is gone. You don't know with him what we're gonna get. So yeah.
Yeah, well, he keeps people guessing, MS. If he's going to play on or retire or all those things.
Your thoughts on that though? Ben Stokes getting snapped by Chennai, Stokes and Dhoni back, together.
Yes, it has. John says, is England the best neutral venue they can come up with for the WTC?
No, 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 no. Just because they built cricket, it doesn't mean you have to have the final there. No,
I was quite surprised that they are having this second final back in England. And obviously the next one after that will be at Lord's. This one next year will be at the Oval. You would like to see it shared around, I suppose, playing different conditions. Depends really who's in the final. You can't have it here in Australia if Australia's in the final. So you got to have it somewhere else. Maybe, South Africa, India, New Zealand, maybe. So that's what the ICC have done at the moment. They thought, well, the Oval, Lords are probably the best venues we've got at the moment. But I would like to see it shared around, obviously. The point of the World Test Championship is,
But again, as you said, depends on
it depends who's in the final as well. For example, if England were in the final, let's just say that as a hypothetical, then they've got to shift it from England, obviously. So,
I'm with Iran. When did Iran start playing cricket, John? I didn't know that.
Yeah. Raj says, I'm not ready. I don't really want him to go. I've had an CSK shirt for about 7 years. I don't want to put it down. If he's still got the desire to play Dhoni, then he will. But if he thinks he can't and the team thinks about the team first, obviously, as he does, Dhoni's a team player, then he will make that right decision. But he's going around again. Let's hope he can have an okay IPL.
England is not a neutral venue.
Raj says England is not a neutral venue. Well, that's what the ICC have decided, really, with their WTC venues for the next couple of finals. But I would like to see it shared around, but it just depends who's in the final. Raj says if England had made it to the final, they wouldn't have moved it if it was set to be played in England. Well, they've said it wants to be has to be at a neutral venue.
I think they would have, they could have, they should. I mean, they would have, and they had enough time. They would have known by now that long time ago that England are going to qualify if they had played that well. So, yeah.
Yeah, it'd be interesting, if that happens, whatever happens there with the WTC, but it's definitely done okay.
My name is Aryan.
Yes, John. I'll get the names up. If I can.
If you you got it, and there must be another layout.
There we go. There we go.
Oh yeah, there you go. Thank you.
So everyone knows who Iran is. There we go. Let's just change. Yeah. There we go. We've got it.
And that's not my surname. That's my YouTube channel name. That's the
direct hit. You can find Iran there.
Yeah, you can find you can hop on for discussions on cricket.
Yes, it was good to chat with you. As people have some questions, some comments about the game. So Australia, 9 wickets tomorrow for them to get, and hopefully they can get the job done.
They'll snap it.
And hopefully finish off the job.
Who goes there? Another wicket is down, by the way. Latham has been snapped up by Pakistan. Good morning for them. And Abrar. I think Abrar picks up 1-1-3. So Latham out for 1, 1, and 3. Yeah.
Raj says Oval is pretty flat compared to the other pitches in England, so I guess that negates the advantage of senior countries a bit, but it all depends on rain and pitch for that time. Thanks for that, Raj. Yes, at least he got to score a century.
Hmm. Yeah.
I think Raj was referring to
Latham, I guess.
Latham there in that
Just
test match.
went. Yeah. Just went out. And that this test match, by the way, not too much relevance as compared. Um.
No, New Zealand pretty much near the bottom of the
Yeah.
WTC rankings. And Pakistan, uh, that series against England didn't help their cause either. So they're probably out of the running to reach the WTC final, which will be next year, of course. Australia definitely in the box seat, of course, if they can win the next two here. Against South Africa, they'll certainly book their place in that final. John says, if the US can produce some good grounds and pitches for the upcoming T20 World Cup, why not host the WTC final there? Thoughts about that, Haran?
Uh,
Potentially, US
mm,
could host it, or because they are
uh,
hosting the T20 World Cup next year, but it depends on how many venues they have up, I suppose.
John, good question. But again, I think the preference would be towards the test playing nations in terms of hosting the final. And maybe in the future, limited over games go there, limited over tournaments go there, but not test cricket as of now. Yeah.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what happens there in terms of the T20 World Cup, which will be there in a couple of years' time. Uh, Obviously, trying to get Test cricket into America as well. I think the American audience prefer T20s, quick and fast. They
And
prefer that than
Americans and
Test format.
Canadians have jobs to go to, so their bosses won't allow them their leaves.
That's the thing, isn't it? It'll be interesting, though. I don't know. Maybe the ICC have pondered about that. But be interesting to see what they discuss.
Also, for viewers who watch Amazon Prime, who have watched the season one of the series, the test, they can expect another part two, which covers
Yes,
Australia,
part two of the test is
Australia
coming
covered
out. That's
Afghanistan
covering.
and the Ashes recent, and 13th January. That's when it's gonna come, so you can enjoy that as well. Amazon Prime Video.
Yes. Any more questions, everyone, before we pull up stumps and say goodbye? And
Well, before we call it stumps here, yeah, we are into our last session, I guess.
yes, pretty much. We'll be going for 2 hours, but yes, disappointing about the rain. But any last questions for us to answer for you? We'll do that, and more than happy to answer those questions. If you have any last questions, um, Ajit says Virat, king of all-time cricket. He's definitely one of the greats, Virat Kohli. John says better than the UAE is a neutral venue. Just throwing it out there. Wouldn't have to worry about scheduling. Yes. Interesting to see what the ICC do in the future WTC finals after the next two. It'll be interesting to see where they choose for another venue. But be interesting to see what they discuss there. Raj says, I will see you next year then. Yes, Raj. Our next live stream will be next year, in fact, for the third test in Sydney on day number 3, last session. We will be back. But in the meantime, we'll be doing some BBL matches, potentially, probably doing one or a couple of BBL matches in that time before the next test. So definitely our next test live stream in that fact will be next year for the third test in Sydney. So do join us then. Raj, you used to say, why is the US better than the UAE for scheduling? Ajit says Babar or Virat.
Better batsman. He's just asking who's
Better batsman. They're two very good players.
I'll just answer it that way. That Babar is in his prime. He's doing really well for his country. But don't, please, fans around the world, please don't start comparing. Virat has already, he's the second highest century scorer in international cricket. He's already done what very few players could. Babar is in his prime. Let's analyze. We can do all of that when both of them are retired very peacefully. So right now, just enjoy while these two greats are, gracing the game. Just enjoy their presence, and then we have plenty of time. Hopefully, by touchwood, we have plenty of time to analyze, think of this, think of that, and if we dig deep, we can dig out a lot of holes. So yeah, let's just enjoy what we can while these two are playing, and when they call it a day, yeah, we'll see then if we want to
Yeah,
put.
absolutely. Very hard to compare players. Everyone's different in terms of their playing abilities. So it's like comparing different players of different eras. It's often hard to do that. Ajit says Curly only target 100 in all formats. Well, he's scored all hundreds in all formats, so he's already ticked that off.
72 and 28.
Raj says, I got to go back to work. We'll see you guys next time. Thanks, Raj, for joining us. And if any people have got last questions, we'll be happy to answer them before we sign out and pull up stumps ourselves. But just recapping, South Africa 1 for 15 after 7 overs. Rain came in the last session. They trailed by 371 runs. In the second innings on day 3, they have to try and bat out 6 sessions to draw this test match and level the series or try and stay in the series if they can. But Australia definitely in the box seat in the second test match in Melbourne. Alrighty then. Thank you, Iran, for joining me. Great to speak to you. It's been a while since we spoke, so thanks for jumping on and having a chat with us. Thanks, everyone, for subscribing, liking the stream, and supporting the podcast. It's been much appreciated. Thank you so much, everyone. It's great to see so many of you engaging in our conversation this afternoon or this evening, or this morning, wherever you may be around the world watching and listening to us. Yes. A reminder of our next live stream. It will be the Sydney test for Australia and South Africa, the third test, day 3, session number 3 from the SCG. That'll be our next live stream. Stay tuned for our BBL live streams as well. They're going to be coming out in the next few weeks. We may do one before the Sydney test. Make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel and click the bell so you don't miss out on any of those. Apart from that, if you haven't done so already, subscribe to our YouTube channel. Follow us on Twitter and on Instagram. Podcast is available on Anchor, Spotify, and on Apple Podcasts. And make sure you check us out on all those social media platforms. John says, have a safe and happy New Year, guys. You too, John. I hope you have a great New Year, and we hope to see you back for our next live stream, which will be potentially the Sydney test.
Yeah.
Ajit says, Curly, the next god of cricket. Well, he's certainly worshipped around the world. Probably similar to Sachin Tendulkar. A lot of people put him in that comparison there. But Virat Kohli, very popular as a very good player in the game of cricket. But apart from that, that's all the time we got for today, everyone. Aran, any last words before we pull up stumps and say goodbye to it?
I think great discussion. Thank you, guys. John, Raj, Arjit, whoever tuned in. And you guys are very knowledgeable about the game, which is great to see. plenty of pointers when we were out of pointers to talk about. You guys really, like, bought some pointers to discuss. And yeah, do hit the bell icon on Jack's channel, and do check out the direct hit. That's my channel where I do the same thing which Jack does, analyzing cricket and stuff. And yeah, have a happy new year, guys. See you next year, I guess.
Thank you, Raran, and thanks everyone for watching, and thanks for tuning in. A reminder, next live stream, Australia and South Africa, third test from the SCG, day number 3. Make sure you click the bell and subscribe to our YouTube channel so you don't miss out.
Yeah.
Apart from that, until next time, keep safe and bye for now.